make an impact, you need a pool of speakers, not just one person, because that one person could be busy and get sick. Surely.
Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam wa ba'd. All praise to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who gathered us again today. Let us subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to speak the truth and then to act upon it. So this is a continuation of the signs before the day of Judgement. Last week we covered some signs and we're continuing to go through some of the minor signs. And we're on sign number 5 or 6. 6, so we'll continue from that. So sign number 6 is the battle with the Turks. The war with the Turks. Umar bin Taghlab radiallahu ta'ala narrates the Rasul said, Inna min ashrat as-sa'a أن تقاتلوا قوما ينتعلون رئال الشعر وإن من أشراط الساعة أن تقاتلوا قوما إراد الوجوه كأن وجوههم المجان المطرقة. That one of the signs before the day of judgment is that you will enter into a war or you will fight those people whose shoes will be made out of hair. And a sign before the day of judgment is that you will find those people whose faces are wide like shears and their skin is shiny and their faces are quite wide and they're quite fat. This is an authentic hadith the Rasul has spoken about. As for the Turks, then the scholars have said slightly different things concerning that. Some people have said that this word, the Turks, the Turks, is one of 22 tribes from the times of Dhul-Qarnayn. And when Dhul-Qarnayn built the wall, then one tribe stayed beyond that wall, stayed outside of that wall, and because for that reason they were known as the Turks. Those that stayed outside or those that were left behind. This is one interpretation of where the word or the origins of this nation comes from. Another group of people have said that they are the Mongols, or we would say the modern day Mongolians, but the majority of the scholars have led towards and gone towards the fact that they are the Turks, what's known as the Turks in modern times today, and they've always been known as the Turks. As for the origins, then the people do differ on that, but the point is that the Arabs will fight the Turks. So the scholars have commented that this fight has actually already happened. Abu Hurairah narrated to the Rasul said, لا تقوم الساعة حتى تقاتل الترك سجار الأعين حمر الوجوه ظلف الأنوف كأن وجوههم المجان المطرقة ولا تقوم الساعة حتى تقاتل قوما نعالهم الشعب. Similar to the narration that we just mentioned. So the hadith gives a description about who the Turks are going to be and what they're going to look like. Imam Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani, he says that this is a group of people that is known as the Ashab al-Babik. So he gives a different interpretation, because these were people who had shoes made out of hair and whose faces were wide. And this was a group of people that had Some of them had entered Islam and then they renegated, they left Islam. And they made much of that which was haram, they made it halal. And in the time of the leadership of Ma'mun al-Rashid, they were very, very powerful. So we are talking after the era of the companions at that time. And they had much control of the lands which were non-Arab lands, like Tabaristan and other than that, Ibn Hajar says. Then in the time of the leader known as Mu'tasim, there was a war and many of them were killed. We're talking around the year 200 Hijrah onwards. So this war, Imam Ibn Hajar says, took place around the year 200 Hijrah onwards. So 200 years after the Hijrah of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Some people have said that the Turks here means the Banu Qantura. And they take it back to the lineage of one of the maids at the time of Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam. The point here is that there will be a war with a group of people known as the Turks. And the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam foretold this as one of the signs of the Day of Judgment. What's the significance of people entering into wars? One of the benefits that we learn from this is that while the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was amongst the Sahaba, the wars that were taking place were primarily with those people that would either come to harm the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and the Sahaba, or those people that wanted to fight al-Islam. But as time went on and innovations began to grow in the religion of al-Islam, and the Sunnah became weak amongst the people, then much fitna, much trials and tribulations and many wars erupted. Some of the wars were over land, some of the wars were over political power, some of the wars were over other issues. But as far as the Sahaba, the Tabi'in and the Atba Tabi'in were concerned, they were always there to defend al-Islam. And for them the priority was to defend Islam from those people that wanted to harm Islam and the Muslims. So likewise, this battle with the Turks, it was in defense of al-Islam. And this is from the signs of the Day of Judgment, that fitna will increase, wars will increase. And in fact, that takes us on to sign number 7, where the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam has said, بادروا بالأعمال فتنة كقطع الليل للمظلم يصبح الرجل مؤمنا ويمسي كافرا يبيع دينه بأرض من الدنيا. He said, busy yourselves in doing righteous actions. Spend your time in doing righteous actions. Because in the darkness of the night, fitna will descend. In the darkness and the midst of the night, fitna will descend. So much so that a person will be a believer in the morning, and by nightfall he would have disbelieved. And he would have sold his iman. He would have sold his religion for a measly price of the dunya. He would have sold his religion for just a small gain in the dunya. So this is sign number 7. The increase of fitna, the increase of trials and tribulations. People will be overtaken by the dunya. And the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam has told us in authentic hadith, تَتَّقُوا الدُّنْيَا وَاتَّقُوا النِّسَاءَ. Be careful of this dunya and be careful of the fitna of women. For this dunya is green and luxurious and luscious and a place of rest. And people will fall into thinking that it's just this dunya that we're here to entertain ourselves with. And they fail to realize وَالْآخِرَةُ خَيْرٌ وَأَبْقَى. That which is after the dunya, that which is in the hereafter, is everlasting. So some of the people, they just lived for the dunya, and they forgot the purpose of their creation. Allah Azza wa Jalla says that the purpose of our creation is وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. that you have been created, mankind and jinn, so that you worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. Because He is the only one who is worthy of your worship in truth and in justice. So once a person becomes consumed by the dunya, he gets up in the morning thinking that his sole purpose for that day is to earn that money, or the sole purpose for that day is to do some entertainment, or the sole purpose of that day is to achieve a certain goal that he planned for weeks ago or months ago, and he lets the dunya consume him. This is a fitna, this is a trial and a tribulation. And the Anbiya, the prophets, were not like this. The prophets did not leave behind any dirham or any dinar. They didn't leave behind any multitude of wealth or large inheritance for the people to inherit from. But they were those that focused on the akhirah. And this kept them away from the trial and tribulation, the tests of the dunya. And this is why the inheritance that the prophets have left behind is what? Al-ilm, knowledge, ilm al-shari. And the scholars are those people who have inherited that prophetic knowledge. Therefore, another benefit that we get from this point is that in times of fitna, whether it's the world that's overtaking you, or your anxieties, your stresses, or what you've created yourself with your own hands, tribulation, whatever the case may be, you have to revert back and go back to the knowledge of Islam. You have to go back to Allah and His Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And the greatest way of doing that and achieving that is to go to the scholars. Al-ulama warathatul anbiya. The scholars are the inheritors of the prophets, and they inherited from the prophets the deen of Islam and the religion of Islam and the knowledge concerning it. So these are the people from where you're going to get the sakina. The scholars are the people that you're going to get calm, peace and tranquility from. Allah says in the Quran, فَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلَ الذِّكْرِ إِن كُنتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. Especially in times of fitna, especially in times of trial, especially in times of confusion. And we're in this time of confusion. There's confusion all around us. Many people's Islamic identity is being shaken from its very core, right from the schooling system onwards, upwards. People sometimes have doubts about Islam, but they let them doubts fester. This is a very big mistake. We should never allow this to happen. If anyone has a doubt or the shaitan has whispered to him or her, then the obligation is فَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلَ الذِّكْرِ إِن كُنتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. Speak to a person of knowledge, because it's that person of knowledge that's going to guide you back to what Allah has said, what the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam has said. But if you allow that doubt to fester and that fitna within you to spread, then that corruption can be catastrophic. A person can go to sleep as a believer and wake up upon disbelief. A person can be a believer in the morning and wake up as a disbeliever. To fall into disbelief will be very easy. Are we not going through that time right now? When you learn about Tawheed and when you learn about the avenues of shirk, may Allah save us from them, you realize how easy it's become for people to fall into shirk and to move away from Tawheed. Shirk is to have partners, to make partners with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's the basic definition of shirk. It's become very easy to do that. For example, as young children in schools or colleges, what have you, when people want to prove a point to someone, what do they say? They say, I swear on my mom and dad's life. You may have heard this. I swear on so-and-so's life. Allah Azza wa Jalla is displeased with this action. This is shirk with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Man khalafa bighayri Allah faqad kafara. The one who swears by other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who is the owner of everything, who knows everything, who created everything. If you take an oath other than the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then Allah Azza wa Jalla has called this disbelief. Allah Azza wa Jalla has called this kufr. Allah Azza wa Jalla is not pleased with that. So as young children, as society is encouraging that the young children move away from the worship of Allah, and they say things like this. We see people nowadays, they want to say something or they want something to go good for them, they say touch wood. This is shirk with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is fitna. This is actually the greatest fitna. This is shirk, this is joining partners with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. أَلَيْسَ اللَّهُ بِكَافٍ عَبْدًا Is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala not enough of a protector for us? Is He not sufficient for us? Hasbunallahu wa ni'mal wakeel, He is sufficient protector for us. Allah is al-wali, the protector. So we move away from that and we're putting our faith in a piece of wood as if that wood is going to give us luck. So we moved away from the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala towards something which opposes that, shirk. And this is actually the greatest fitna. This is the greatest fitna. Shirk with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the greatest fitna. And the ummah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam will fall into shirk. Once the companions were sitting with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the verse was revealed that those who believe those who have iman and they don't mix with their iman dhulm, oppression, then for them is peace and security, and they are the ones upon guidance. The companions became very worried at us, because the companions wanted to avoid fitna. They wanted to avoid fitna, whether it was on the outside or fitna which would lead them to the fire. They did not want to go anywhere near the fire. So they became very panicky and very worried. They said, which one of us hasn't made a mistake or hasn't fallen into oppression? So does that mean now that the security of Allah, the peace of Allah will not be for us? Guidance will not be for us? Are we destined to be doomed? A'udhu billah. So they were extremely worried not to fall into this fitna. So the illustrious companion Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he went to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and said, Ya Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which one of us is secure from fitna? Which one of us is secure from dhulm, oppression? And the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that this ayah is not as you think it to be. Rather, understand from the words of Luqman alayhi salatu wasalam to his son, Ya bunay la tushrik billah, inna shirka la dhulmun adhim. Oh my son, don't worship anybody or anything other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for verily shirk is the greatest oppression. So what this verse means is that those who have iman, those who say la ilaha illallah, and they stay away from shirk, they stay away from the greatest fitna. The greatest fitna, the greatest oppression is shirk. So those who say la ilaha illallah and they stay away from joining partners with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for them is al-Jannah, for them is peace, for them is security, for them is guidance. So when we talk about fitna occurring as a sign of the Day of Judgment, then we should know and we should be fully aware that the greatest fitna is shirk with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And in the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, whenever he saw that there's a chance that the Sahaba may fall into an avenue of shirk, he cut that straight away. He cut that fitna at its root straight away, so that the Sahaba would not fall into it. For example, we know the hadith from, the famously narrated hadith known as the hadith of Dhat al-Wat. Who knows the hadith? Abu Waqid al-Laythi's hadith. I remember these young people that I especially remember these names. Abu Waqid al-Laythi, the hadith of Abu Waqid al-Laythi concerning the Dhat and Wat, concerning the tree. So, some of the companions had newly entered into Islam. And the people of shirk, the people of fitna, the people of trial and tribulation, they used to have a tree for good luck. They used to have a tree for good luck. Dhat and Wat they used to call it. And they used to hang up their shields and their swords and the things on that tree. So one of the companions said, Ya Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Ijalana Dhat and Wat kamalahum. Make for us a Dhat and Wat the way they have a Dhat and Wat. And the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, Allahu Akbar. So he mentioned the oneness of Allah, the Tawheed of Allah straight away. The way to remove the fitna of shirk is to go back to the beauty and the completeness of the oneness of Allah, which is Tawheed. And the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam did that in this narration. He said, Allahu Akbar, reminding them of Tawheed straight away. He said, don't say as the people of Musa said to him, make for us a God the way the people of shirk have made a God for themselves. Yeah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not in need of any partners. So when we are talking about fitna, and when we're talking about trials and tribulations, many of the books that talk about the day of judgment and its signs, they talk about people fighting and people entering into wars and so on and so forth. And they miss out this element, which is probably the most important element. That yes, fitna will increase. And what that means is, after the passing away of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, the avenues of shirk will grow. Shirk will grow. So much so that the ummah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, they will say La ilaha illallah, but they will commit shirk with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So as Muslims, it's obligatory upon us, every single one of us, that we learn about the Tawheed of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we learn about that which opposes, that which goes against the Tawheed of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, known as a shirk, so that we can stay away from it. Man qala la ilaha illallah dakhala al-jannah. The one who dies upon La ilaha illallah will go to Jannah, and the one who dies upon Yad'u min dunillah, the one who dies upon joining other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as a partner with him, making partners with Allah, dakhala al-nar, will go to the fire of fire. So this person will sleep as a believer, wake up as a disbeliever. And one of the greatest ways that that will happen is that people will fall into shirk. And some people will fall into shirk, they might not even realize it. Some people will fall into this sin, into this fitna, without even realizing it. Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min shirka bika wa la a'lamu wa astaghfiruka ma la a'lam. This is why the Rasul sallallahu used to make a dua, and we benefit from this. Oh Allah, forgive me for the shirk that I've done knowingly, and forgive me for the shirk that I've done unknowingly. And this is the Prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that used to make this dua. So as believers, we should always have in our minds, oh Allah, save me from fitna. Oh Allah, save me from the fitna of Dajjal. Oh Allah, save me from the fitna of trial and tribulation. Save me from the fitna of being in a war. Save me from the fitna of bloodshed, so on and so forth. But we should always also ask, oh Allah, save me from the fitna and the oppression of shirk. Save me from falling into shirk, and if I'm ever fallen into shirk, forgive me, oh Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Likewise, we have the narration from Usama bin Zayd concerning the fitna, concerning the trials and tribulations increasing towards the end of the time. He narrates the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, أشرف النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم على أتم من أتام المدينة فقال هل ترون ما أرى؟ قالوا لا. قال فإني لا أرى الفتنة تقع خلال بيوتكم كوكأ القطر. Usama bin Zayd radiallahu ta'ala narrates that the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was walking in Medina, and he ascended upon a place. We went slightly high, you could say a mountain or something like this. And he said to the companions sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, do you see what I see? The companions said, no, Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So imagine just looking outside and someone saying, are you seeing what I'm seeing? Well, we're seeing houses or whatever. But he's asking about something extra, something beyond that. So the Sahaba said, no, Messenger of Allah, we don't see what you're seeing. The Rasul said, I am seeing fitna. Fitna means trial and tribulation. It means testing times. I am seeing fitna dropping upon your houses, entering upon your houses, the way droplets of rain fall from the sky. So I am seeing fitna dropping from the sky and falling on your houses. So who's he addressing in this hadith? Who's the Rasulullah addressing in this hadith? Now, the Sahaba. So he's saying to the Sahaba that I can see the fitna falling on your houses. So I have a question for you. If the Sahaba were not saved and they were open for the fitna to come to them, but they were mountains of firmness and mountains of knowledge, and they were mountains of iman, so they could withhold the fitna, they could handle the fitna, their iman was so high, then do you think Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala won't test us with fitna? What do you think? It means that the ummah of Rasulullah, the believers, will be tested. And the firm believer is the one who has istiqamah, the one who stands firm. وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ بِشَيْءٍ مِنَ الْخَوْفِ وَالْجُوعِ وَنَقْصٍ مِنَ الْأَمْوَالِ وَالْأَنفُسِ وَالثَّمَرَاتِ وَبَشِّرِ الصَّابِرِينَ. The people will be tested with fear, with hunger and famine, with loss of wealth, with loss of vegetation, with loss of life. Glad tidings to those who have sabr. Glad tidings to those who have patience. To have patience, is that an aspect of ibadah or not? Yes. So what this means is that the saved people are those who are upon the true worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And to have sabr is from the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So once again, you see that theme running all the way through. Want to save yourself from fitna? Want to save yourself that when you, or if you are tested with loss of life, loss of wealth, you're going to college, you're going to university, you're going to school, people are saying things, people are bullying you, so on and so forth. This is your own trial and tribulation or test that you might be going through. Everybody goes through things differently at different stages of their life. But the greatest way, and the theme is continuing throughout this, is to have that relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. To be engaged with the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is why Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that 7 whom the throne of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give shade to on a day where there's no shade. So day of judgment would have happened. And now we're standing before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the people are drowning in their sweat. And the sweat is reaching from the ankles to the ears, to the earlobes, to the arms, to the armpits, to drowning, people drowning in sweat. But some people will be under the coolness of the shade of the throne of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Can you imagine? Allah make us from them. So under the shade of the throne of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Do you know who one of them people is, especially for the youngsters? It's the young person, the Prophet said, Shabun, the young boy or girl who's engaged and spent his youth in the Masjid, the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The young boy or girl who try to avoid this fitna, who try to avoid the trials and tribulations, who try to avoid the greenery of the dunya and all that he has to offer. And instead he was engaged in the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is an encouragement for all of us. And sometimes the scholars have explained, some of them have actually explained that Shabun means a person less than 40. So if anybody is less than 40, definitely we've still got a chance. Nothing is lost. La taqnatu min rahmatillah. Don't be despondent and don't be away from the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is always around the corner. If you are thrown and thrust into a fitna, don't panic and don't lose hope. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is with the believers. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala always helps the believers. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's mercy is greater than his anger. So the worst thing that a believer can do in a fitna is that he begins to question, why me? And this happens, people go through this phase. What have I done to deserve this? So a person starts to question the judgments of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the decisions of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As believers, we have to be fully aware of this. That we can't question why we're placed in a fitna. What we have to do instead is question ourselves. We don't blame Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Rather, we blame ourselves. If things are going wrong in our life and we're surrounded by fitna, we're surrounded by trials and tribulations, then we look to ourselves rather than blaming Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. ظهر الفساد في البر والبحر بما كسبت أيدي الناس. When you see fasad, fitna, trial, tribulations, killing, looting, murdering, on a more individual basis, you're going through something, then rather than blaming everyone around you, Allah says, look at what your own hands have earned. Because what's happening to you maybe is because of what? The actions of your hands and your body has led to. You lied, you cheated, you stole, you done something wrong. You forgot for that moment that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is watching me, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is seeing me. You had a moment where you let your desires get the better of you. Then don't start blaming everybody and anybody. Straight away, rush back to the repentance before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is so merciful that He loves the people that make tawbah to Him. He loves the people that repent to Him. If they don't sin, they wouldn't repent, would they? If people didn't sin, would they repent? What would they repent for then? But that means the people will sin. The people will make mistakes. But the best of those people are those that rush back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So yes, fitnas will happen. Trials will happen. Tribulations will happen. But don't let the dunya overtake you. Don't let that fitna overtake you. Don't be in a state of confusion. The believer is not in a state of confusion. The believer has istiqamah. He stands firm as a mountain. O Prophet of Allah, tell me something that I can only ask of you. He said, قُلْ آمَنْتُ بِاللَّهِ ثُمَّ اسْتَقِمْ قُلْ لِي فِي لِسَانِي قَوْلٌ لَا أَسْأَلُ عَنْهُ أَحَدًا إِلَّا غَيْرَكَ. Rasulullah, tell me, inform me of something that I can ask of you and nobody but you. He said, قُلْ آمَنْتُ بِاللَّهِ. Have the belief in the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Don't waver, have this belief in Tawheed and then stick to it. And make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that along the way, if you come across any fitnas, then fitnas, if they are going to affect you, let it be affecting your dunya rather than your deen. And make dua that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He sends the angel of death to you and I, that He takes us upon this La ilaha illallah. He takes us upon this Tawheed. And that's a death which is free from fitna, by the way. That's a death which is free from fitna. How many times have people become ill, or they've lost their business, or they've lost their wealth, or they've lost a loved one, or they've been maybe in an earthquake zone, or maybe the aeroplane's fallen out of one of their loved, could be anything. But they begin to question the very truthfulness of Islam. They begin to question Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the greatest fitna. This is the fitna which the people will fall into. All other fitnas are less than that. The one which shakes a person's iman is a fitna that he has to be very, very careful of. This is a very dangerous fitna. And there are routes which lead to that fitna sometimes. A girl, he wants to pray salah, but he's now got a girlfriend. Girlfriend is haram in Islam. She's inviting him to do sin. That girl is a fitna. He wants to listen to his parents. She wants to wear the hijab, wear the niqab. Her other girlfriends are telling her, this is not important. Wear the jeans, wear this, wear that. This is fitna. What path are we going to choose when we're hit with that fitna? With that question? The believer doesn't be in a confused state. The believer is a person who stays firm. And very quickly that person reminds themselves, Allah is watching me. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is hearing what I'm saying and He's seeing what I do. So the believer doesn't panic. Whatever Allah has decided, He's decided because it's good for me. And if I've fallen into a sin and I'm seeing the result of that sin in front of me, I need to change. I need to go back in repentance to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, the Rasul said, rush towards good deeds. And I see that fitna is falling on the rooftop of your houses the way rain droplets fall down. Our Sheikh, our Imam of this time, Sheikh Salih al-Fawzan, he explained this hadith, and he explained it with another hadith also, that there'll be a time, which we're going to come on to inshaa, there'll be a time that where fitna will enter into the houses of all people, and very few people amongst the Arabs will be free from having a fitna which will enter their houses. And he said that it is the TV. He said that he believes, in his opinion, the fitna which has entered into the houses of the people towards the end of times, as a sign of the Day of Judgement, he said he believes that it's the modern day where we have a multitude of TV stations. Sheikh Abdul Muhsin al-Abbad, Hafidahullah, the Imam of Hadith in Medina, he said something which was similar to this recently in a recorded talk. Do we not have the fitna of wasting time and just watching all kinds of evil on the TV? Has this not entered our houses? Even if it's not the fitna that the Prophet is talking about, be sure and know for a fact that that TV is a fitna. How many brothers and sisters, their marriages and their families have broken down because of that TV? We don't allow ourselves, we don't allow our wives, we don't allow our children to go to the cinema and watch a movie and do free mixing. But yet we allow them to sit in front of the TV. The biggest cinema is in your house, where they can watch whatever they want. Hundreds of TV channels. And now the mobile phone. So, as Muslims and as believers, inshallah, and especially for the young Muslims here, don't spend your time and waste your time constantly engaging in the fitna of the TV. Be careful of this. Because what this will do is, this will take you away from the hadith of Rasulullah, where he said, rush towards doing good deeds, a'malu salih. Watching TV, spending your time watching TV. I remember last Ramadhaan, I was speaking to a young brother and I said, how much Quran have you read today? And, he said what he said. So I said, how do you spend the rest of your day? What do you engage in? He said, Ustaad, I try to sleep most of the day. And the other few hours that I have left, I catch up on my soap operas on TV. And so this is not the way we should be spending our Ramadan. Never mind the normal days, but Ramadan, this fitna, we don't even give it up in Ramadan. This is true, isn't it? We just sit in front of the TV, let's just kill time. You can't kill time, by the way. Let's just waste time. This is fitna. This is fitna for you as an individual, because when you grow up, you will not know the value of time. And time will pass you by. This is fitna. Value 5 things before they're taken away from you. Value your money before you lose it, and also what? Value what? Your time before you don't have any more free time. Before you become occupied. Value your youth before you become old. This is all what? Telling you to stay away from the fitna. So, whether it's the TV or not, the point here is that this is a fitna that has entered into most of the houses. May Allah save us from that. Likewise, the fitna of, as he mentioned in the hadith of Ibn Abi Shaybah, يُشِكَنَّ أَن يُصَبَّ عَلَيْكُمْ شَرًّا مِنَ السَّمَاءِ حَتَّى يَبْلُغَ الْفَيَافِي. That the Rasul said that the fitna will increase so much that even the heavens will rain down fitna on you. And it'll reach the point of fayafi. They said, what's this fayafi that you're talking about, O Messenger of Allaah? So he said, it is to have the desire just to be completely usurped and overtaken by the dunya, by land. Is that not fitna? So this hadith indicates that it could mean that the fitna of just wanting more, greed, this will enter almost every house. So then, do you think it's a coincidence that when the Dajjal comes, he will be saying to the people, look at this land of yours. They're going to say it's been barren for so many years. They're going to say, look, he's going to say, look now. They're going to look back and it's going to be filled with luscious fruits and all sorts. Why? Because he will know that these people are those that live for the dunya. All that interests them is the dunya and wealth and the luxuries of wealth. Whereas the Rasul and the Sahaba were totally removed from this. Allahumma la aish illa aish al-akhirah. The Rasul used to say, the Sahaba used to say behind him, Oh Allah Azza wa Jal, there is no luxury, there is no entertainment, there is no real place of rest except for what you have in store for us in the Akhirah. And the companions were upon this manhaj, they were upon this tariqah, they were upon this way. And they would constantly make dua to save them from all kinds of fitna. Whether it be shirk, obviously they didn't have TVs at that time, but they had other things going on. The Arabs at that time had people that would entertain through dancing and music and singing and so on and so forth. We have some people today that say music is allowed. It's not allowed, music is haram. This is fitna. Music like TV will burn your soul. These are things as believers that we have to be aware of and stay away from. Now, another way to understand this word fitna is about the bloodshed that will occur between the people. The people will start killing each other. Wars will take place. So this is the third subdivision, you could say, of that fitna will increase as a sign towards the day of judgment. So the first one we looked at, shirk with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the second thing is the dunya and all the tests and trials and tribulations, including the TV and so on and so forth that we go through. And the third subdivision is the wars and the killing that will take place. This is also fitna. Abu Hurairah radiallahu ta'ala anhu narrates that the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, لا تقوم الساعة, the day will not be established, meaning the day of judgment will not occur until حتى تقتتل فئتان أذيمتان تكون بينهما مقتلة عظيمة ودعواهما واحدة. The day of judgment will not be established until two great, large groups of people don't fight each other. And there'll be a great war between them. Even though both of them will be claiming the same thing. Both of them will have the same mission. They'll both want the same thing. Yet, they'll fight each other. So, the scholars have commented that this is concerning the Battle of Siffin. This is concerning the Battle of Siffin. This happened very briefly after the martyrdom of the third Khalifa Uthman radiallahu ta'ala anhu. And it's a battle that took place 36 years after Hijrah. So it's the time of the Sahaba. And it was a war, a battle between Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu and Muawiyah radiallahu ta'ala anhu. They both wanted the same thing. I'm not going to go into the background to that war, but in a sentence or two, one group wanted the blood of Uthman radiallahu ta'ala anhu avenged immediately, because Uthman radiallahu ta'ala anhu had been martyred, and the way he'd been martyred, it's a very dark page and a very sad page of the history of al-Islam. Uthman radiallahu ta'ala anhu was one of the wealthiest companions, and he gave much in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he gave much to help the poorer Muslims around him. And even though he'd been promised Jannah, Uthman, do as you wish, Allah has forgiven your sins. And even though he'd been told by the Prophet ﷺ, in one sitting, the Prophet named 10 people to be people of Jannah, known as the Ashra Mubashara, the 10 who were given the good news. Abu Bakr fil Jannah, Umar fil Jannah, Uthman fil Jannah, Ali fil Jannah, Talha fil Jannah, Sa'id fil Jannah, Sa'id fil Jannah. So Uthman knew during his lifetime that the Prophet of Allah ﷺ has said that he is a person of Jannah. But this didn't stop him doing good. He done much khair with the wealth that he had. He done much benefit for the people around him, the believers. But a time came when some fitna causes, those people that wanted to create instability amongst the Muslims, they made accusations against Uthman radiallahu ta'ala anhu, which led eventually to them entering into his house. Hazrat Uthman didn't pick up a sword to fight them, didn't ask anyone to kill them, but they were hell-bent, you could say. They had just one aim. They wanted to see the blood of Uthman radiallahu ta'ala anhu. A prophet would be promised Sahabi would be promised Jannah, and they came and they pulled his beard radiallahu ta'ala anhu, whilst he was in a state of fasting, whilst he was reading the Quran, and they stabbed him and they killed him, martyred him radiallahu ta'ala anhu. Muawiyah radiallahu ta'ala anhu wanted those people that had done this be brought to justice immediately. Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu, who is the fourth Khalifa after Uthman radiallahu ta'ala anhu, said no. The people are fighting. Islam is, the Muslims have become slightly unstable. We have to wait for a bit. We will take them to account. We will make them pay for what they've done, but not right now. So it was on this difference that the fitna erupted. And the Prophet ﷺ told us about this fitna in this hadith. They both wanted the same thing. But the fitna happened. People's lives were taken. Sahaba died during this battle. So I want to take a pause here and I want to open up a slightly different point of benefit, but it's a point of Aqidah. And it's actually a very important point. When we read about these things occurring as a sign of the Day of Judgment, we shouldn't be in a state of confusion and we shouldn't worry. Sahaba fighting each other? Rather, the scholars of Islam have given us some guidelines and some rules concerning the fights and the arguments that took place between the Sahaba, how we should deal with them. So I just want to focus on that. First of all, point number one. We don't say that the Sahaba had revelation come to them. We don't say that they were prophets. They were men, and sometimes they were right and sometimes they erred in their judgment. Ahl Sunnah, they say that any companion who erred in his judgment, he still gets rewarded for that. Because the Sahaba had good intentions and they strive always to get to the truth. And when they're right, they're rewarded with two rewards, and when they're incorrect, they still get one reward. So in this battle, the scholars have commented that Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu was upon the truth and closer to the truth in comparison to the party of Muawiyah radiallahu ta'ala anhu. May Allah be pleased with him. So one of them got two rewards at least, and one of them got one. We don't fall into the sin, which is actually ironically another sign of the judgment, that the people are going to start speaking bad about the Sahaba. La tasubbu ashabi. We don't do as some people do today. They start swearing at the Sahaba, and they start speaking ill of the Sahaba. As believers, we should never do this. And this is something that we must make tawbah for if we've ever fell into it. Nor should we be around those people who think it's okay to speak ill of, or to curse, or to abuse, or to belittle the Sahaba in any way. Because your character is like a thief. The Salafis say your character is like a thief. You'll start taking things from that person that you're mixing with. So it's not permissible for a believer to mix with people who swear at the Sahaba, who abuse the Sahaba, who curse the Sahaba, who belittle the Sahaba. Rather, Ahl Sunnah say, one of them was right, one of them was incorrect, and the one who was incorrect still gets one reward because of the good intention and the striving that they did. The second point of Aqidah, this is belief system actually, is the Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, they remain silent. They remain silent concerning the inner disputes of the Sahaba. What does that mean? it means that they don't make it a point of disputing between them. Nor do they make it their dawah, their call, to spread the fighting that took place and to talk about that and to spread that to the people. Instead, Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah always remind the other fellow believers and Muslims that when it comes to the Sahaba, you have to stay silent. Point 3, Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah therefore only speak good about the Sahaba, otherwise they stay quiet. Ahl Sunnah only say something good about the Sahaba, otherwise they stay silent. These are, you could say, the three that I, in my way, have tried to condense, three golden principles when it comes to the fitna between the Sahaba. And the Rasul said in the authentic hadith, Man sakata salim man salim al-najah, that the one who stays silent is the one who's found salvation. This is so true, brothers and sisters. How many times have people spoken when they didn't need to speak? Or they've opened their mouths and they've said something and they've probably destroyed their family. Or they've probably started a war by saying things like this. And this could have happened at the time of the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. This tongue is something that can be very dangerous for the people. This is also a fitna. During the time of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was resting in his tent, and between the Muhajirin and the Ansar, those that migrated from Mecca and those that were in Medina previously from the beginning, a little fitna occurred, a disagreement occurred. Like today, people can dispute. It can happen anywhere on the shops outside of the street. So they started to say to each other. One of them said, "Oh Muhajirin, look at what this Ansari is doing to me." The Ansari said, "Oh Ansaris, oh people of the Ansar, look at what this Muhajir is doing to me." So now, that thing happening, people are looking, what's going on? You know when you're in school and people say, fight, fight, fight. And everybody gathers. But these were the Sahaba. The aim wasn't to create that scene. But this is something that naturally just came from their mouth. And the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam saw what was happening and he came and he was very upset. He said, "Do you want to take the people back to the days of Jahiliyyah? The days of ignorance? Meaning what you're doing is fitna." So that one word that they uttered, it could have caused a much larger fight amongst the Sahaba. For what reason? Nothing. The scholars have written that the issue was literally nothing that they were disputing over. So, this tongue and how we use it, we have to be very careful with it. The tongue itself can be a fitna and it can create a colossal amount of fitna. It can lead to civil war and killing. Do you not see in the world today? The people have entered into a new fashion. If they want someone attacked, in some of the countries, they say he's spoken bad about the Prophet. They have no evidence, maybe. Just creating that fitna. If they want to cause some political problems, they'll use this tongue and they'll make lies to block the roads and block the streets and protesting on the streets. This is all fitna. This is all fasad. This is not the sunnah of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. This battle that happened between Ali radiallahu ta'ala and Muawiyah radiallahu ta'ala, one group, particular group, sect, was lurking in the background throughout this whole fitna. And they played a massive part in this fitna occurring. And because we're talking about fitna, and we're talking about staying away from fitna, I wanted to touch upon that group today. They are known as the Khawarij. They are known as the Khawarij. And the emergence of the Khawarij is also a sign from the signs of the Day of Judgment. Sheikh, how long do we have? 10 minutes. Yeah. So we'll start it, inshallah. We won't maybe finish it today, but we'll start it. So we're talking about the fitna which leads to bloodshed, the wars, the fighting. One such fitna is the fitna of the Khawarij. These are people who oppose Allah and His Rasul and the Sahaba. This is a sect that appeared in its organized form in the era of the Sahaba. And they've entered into the ranks of those that were with Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu. Their intention was just to keep the Muslims fighting. They were happy with this fighting because they wanted the Muslims to be harmed. They wanted to see the Muslims to be split. They wanted the Muslims to be disunited. And to disunite is also from fitna. To disunite is also from fitna. وَاعْتَصِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا. Hold on to the Quran and Sunnah. Hold on to Islam and don't differ. Different is something which is not permissible in Islam. Today you'll hear people saying, you can pray your way, I'll pray my way. You can believe in Allah the way you want, I'll believe in Allah the way I want. You can have your belief concerning the Prophet, I'll believe in the Prophet the way I want to. You celebrate the birthday of the Prophet, I won't celebrate it. Don't worry, this is all okay. We're just different Muslims. This is not permissible, this is fitna. Islam has one version, not many versions. The Prophet came with one truth, not one truth explained in 70, 80, 100 different ways, with different versions in the way that we wanted Islam to be explained. This is all fitna, which we're going to go through in due course, inshallah. But this fitna that the Khawarij wanted was they wanted disunity amongst the Muslims. They wanted them to kill each other. And the ironic thing is, when Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu and Muawiyah radiallahu ta'ala anhu, they entered into a peace treaty, these people, because their aim was to see that bloodshed, their bloods boiled. And they became very upset at this pact, at this peace treaty, and they left the ranks of, they left the support of Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu. So now, they turned against Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu also. This is a very, very bird's eye view of the Khawarij. As for their belief, the Khawarij believe that the Muslims who fall into major sin, they are disbelievers who will remain in the hellfire forever. Ahl Sunnah don't believe this. Ahl Sunnah believe that the Muslims fall into major sin except for shirk. So if someone dies upon shirk and they don't repent to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then they will remain in the hellfire forever. إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يَغْفِرُ أَن يُشْرَكَ بِهِ وَيَغْفِرُ مَا دُونَ ذَلِكَ لِمَن يَشَاءُ. Allah Azza wa Jalla will forgive any sin that He wishes except for shirk. So if someone dies upon shirk, and Allah knows if he died upon shirk or not, then that person will remain in the hellfire forever. Allah save us from that. Ameen. As for sins which are less than that, it could be adultery, it could be, let's have some major sins for the youngsters. Name me some major sins.
Disobedience to parents.
Disobedience to parents, very good. Said by a father. Yes. He said what you said. You didn't say anything.
I was going to say that, but he didn't.
Oh, okay, so think about another thing. So, these are all what we call major sins. Yeah? Major sins. To miss your salah, just to be quite mellow about this actually. To miss your prayer is a major sin. It's a major sin. So Ahl Sunnah believe that the people who fall into major sins, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants, He'll forgive them. If He wants, He still won't forgive them. But we hope for the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But because that person didn't have shirk, and rather he had tawheed, the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Ahl Sunnah are hopeful that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, even if they're in the fire, Allah Azza wa Jal, through His mercy, will remove them in the fire and enter them into Al-Jannah. The Khawarij said no. They said that these people are going to stay in the fire forever because as a result of that, they ended up killing Muslims. Any Muslim who fell into a major sin, the Khawarij thought that it was okay to kill them. And we have the Khawarij today as well, by the way. It's from the signs of the Day of Judgment that the Khawarij will remain until the Yawm al-Qiyamah. The Rasul said that every time they are fought and they are brought down, another group of them will emerge. Hatta taqumu as-sa'a, up until the last day. And this is Sunnah Sahih authentic hadith. So this group, whether you call it ISIS or whatever they are, these people actually do exist. Ahl Sunnah and the Muslims are free from these people and their evil. We should say openly that we're free from the evil of these people and these people what they're upon. They make the blood of the people permissible. They indiscriminately kill people. And their entire belief system is corrupt. They don't know how to prioritize between what is permissible and what's not permissible. They had a problem in the era of the Sahaba with someone who killed a mosquito, but they themselves were killing people unjustly. So the entire balance and the entire understanding of the deen is corrupt. Do you know why it's corrupt? And this is fitna. Their understanding of the deen, the verses of the Quran that they use, the ahadith that they use, they're just there to confuse people. Why are they corrupt and why is their understanding corrupt? Because they took knowledge but they didn't take it from the Sahaba. This is a very, very important point I'm going to end on today, inshallah. The knowledge which they had wasn't knowledge which they took from the understanding of the Sahaba or the understanding of the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. ISIS today, or whatever they call themselves, they mention verses of the Quran to you. They mention the Prophet said this, the Prophet said that, and the Prophet said this. But what they're saying is based upon corruption. They want you to think that they've got the Quran and Sunnah with them. But the understanding that they give you of the verses and of the Sunnah is not from the Sahaba. And this is fitna, this is fasad. So this group existed in the era of the Sahaba, and its aim was to cause disunity and to fight the believers and to kill people who fall into major sin. And the ironic thing is they claim knowledge for themselves, like today. They actually think that they're ulama, they're scholars. One of their signs is, and this is how easy it is for people to fall into their trap. When you look at their prayer, when you look at them reading the Quran and their worship, you're going to think that these people are the greatest of worshippers. And the Rasul said that they'll speak your language, meaning their Arabic, it might be excellent level Arabic. So you go onto YouTube today, you see someone, he has a red headscarf on, he has a green hat on. Well, I don't know about the green hat, but stay away from the green hat, so that's a separate story. So, and he's speaking Arabic, you think, MashaAllah, this is the real deal, this is a scholar. And he's saying, Allah said, His Rasul said. But he's giving it through his own explanation. And he's moving away from the explanation of the companions. This is fitna and corruption. So the result and the conclusion of this point at least is, brothers and sisters, elders, youngsters, be extremely careful who you take your deen of Islam from, who you take your knowledge of Islam from. Don't be mesmerized, and don't be bewitched is probably another word to use, just by someone having such nice Arabic and such nice speech, and the way he looks and his beard is so nice and it's oiled and mashallah. No. We are obligated to follow the Quran and Sunnah upon the way of the Sahaba. This is the way to save yourself from the greatest fitna. When the Dajjal comes, the way to save yourself from the fitna is to follow the Quran and Sunnah with the way the Sahaba told you. If you're going to try to give your own interpretations to the Quran and Sunnah at that time, like the people do today, like I mentioned the last verse, for them the hadith of Dajjal is talking about a system. They don't even accept Dajjal, but they use the same hadith. These are the people that you have to stay away from. These are the people that won't even recognize Dajjal. Why? Because they moved away from the understanding of the Sahaba. So the path to salvation is one and only one. فَمَاذَا بَعْدُ الْحَقِّ إِلَّا الضَّلَالُ. The truth is one, and then there's misguidance. And the truth is, yes, we follow the Quran and Sunnah, but we follow it with the way and with the understanding and with the explanation that the Sahaba gave us. Because the Sahaba are those that were around Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. They preserved what he said, they memorized what he said, they wrote down what he said. So we're going to continue a bit more, inshallah, next week with fitna and what it means. Because if you just read one hadith that towards the end I found there'll be much fitna, what does that mean though? So I've tried today, to the best of my ability, to slightly go into what that means. What is fitna and how we should be aware of it and how then we should stay away from it. So this is another type of fitna where the people are just there to kill each other and make each other's property and make their wealth and make their blood halal. And this is a big fitna. May Allah save us from all types of fitna. Inshallah, Aziz, I hope to see all of you and more. Inshallah, next week. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allows us to speak the truth. Subhanakallah wa bihamdik, ashhadu la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Now, some questions.
Ustaad, a quick question. You mentioned one of the signs about barren valleys becoming luscious and green. Recently, there's been a few videos flying around once again on social media about big springs of water and certain Arab valleys in the Middle East that have become green. Are these the signs that are applicable now? Is there going to be a particular timeline, or is this just people kind of trying to be in haste?
The first thing is there are some people who have made it their mashkara, they've made it their purpose to look at what's happening around the world and try to apply to hadith and say, see, that is under the nearer the devil. Like you mentioned in the last week, that's the entire call. So these are the people upon a dangerous power. And the problem is that when that sign actually does occur, they fall straight into it because they've told the people already, it's happened already. So the people think, well, this can't be it because it's happened already, right? So this is very, very dangerous. The second thing is, how do we judge whether that sign is occurring now or not? Then the scholars are the inheritors of the prophets, and they've inherited ilm shari. They've inherited knowledge which is shari, knowledge which is based upon the Quran and the Sunnah. If you trust a scholar to be able to teach your child, and you trust a scholar to be able to tell you whether you're divorced or whether you're married, you trust a scholar to allow you to say, now it's okay for you to have a relationship with this woman, now you're married. You trust a scholar to do the funeral prayer of your mother and your father. Why do you not trust a scholar when it comes to understanding the signs of the Day of Judgment, understanding the oneness of Allah, understanding what shirk, and so on and so forth? So, it was the people of the book previously who used to take what they liked from the scholars and leave what they didn't like. And this actually led them to some of the kufr that they fell into. As for the believers, then if the scholars generally say that Ibn Kathir has made a comment and al-Dhabi and those before him, and so on and so forth, then Al-Sunnah take that. But even then they say that this is not something which is 100% for certain. Because the Rasul said something like this, but the scholars have commented it that they believe that this has already occurred. Like, for example, the Battle of Siffin, this is something that all of the scholars are agreed upon, and this actually happened. It's mentioned in Hadith. So, it varies from sign to sign. As for this thing that goes around on YouTube sometimes, the valleys are now saying that the river of Galilee is now getting dry and so on and so forth. Then Allah the reality is the ulama haven't spoken about linking these ahadiths to these current signs. Some of the people say the Arab Spring, that happened, this is a sign of the Day of Judgment, and some of the hadith is related to the Arab Spring. Well, none of our ulama, the people that we trust, that we take hadiths from, have explained any hadith to fit on to them occasions. So the believer is the one who doesn't go in front of or before what the people of knowledge say. As for guessing, then on YouTube and WhatsApp, everybody is a scholar. Everybody has an opinion. And this is the dangerous thing. This is a very, very dangerous path that some people tread on. And as I said, the danger of it is that if that sign were to occur truly in your life, right, then you'd think it's already happened because your brain, the greatest scholar, your brain has told you it's done. So you'll probably fall into that. And this is also the traps of shaitan. In fact, Ibn Qayyim mentions that one of the traps of shaitan is that you leave the book and the sunnah and you start following what your own thoughts and what your own logic tells you. And this is a great fitna that hit a large portion of the ummah of Rasulullah where they left behind the book and the sunnah, but instead they wanted to follow what their minds and what their logics dictated to them. And I said, Allah. Inshallah, we'll recap, inshallah, next, well, we'll recap later, inshallah. Now, what are the first 5 signs?
Do you know what the people have shoes like?
Yeah.
Like, who have, like, you know the people that like shoes?
Shoes made out of it.
Yeah.
Okay. The Turks. Yeah, the Turks, yeah. Do you know what the Turks are? Just know it's the now, so the signs that we went through last week, number one, the coming of Rasulullah, the prophethood of Rasulullah. Number two was the fact that Rasulullah split the moon into two halves. Number three was the fact that Bayt al-Maqdis will be conquered and taken back. And this happened in the time of Umar and we also mentioned the fact that there will be a blazing fire in the land of Hijaz, which will make the necks of camels light up. Many times in the Bible in Basra, the hadith actually says, and we went to some of the commentary for saying that. And there were the 4 or 5 signs that we sort of covered. We had an introduction before that as well, of how we understand the science, why we don't use our logic just to understand the science, and why we wait for the scholars to speak and see what they say. So they were, that's what we mentioned last week.
One question, sorry. You know I think I've heard somewhere. Sorry, I heard somewhere that the people who used to wear the shoes made up from hair, the Mongols.
Like I said in that some of the people have said that it's a Mongolian. Some of them said so it's a
Turks.
yeah, and they take it back to the lineage from the group of the people that were at the time of the name. But Hajj has said, I didn't want to go behind it.
Okay, alhamdulillah. No problem.
So can you summarize the main points?
Today has been about, we went on to sign number 6, which was that then towards the end of time, or before the end of time, the Muhammad Rasulullah will fight the Turks, and they went into some of the very different opinions about who the Turks are or are not. And the fact that that battle has, according to some scholars, already taken place, and some of them say it is to occur. And then we moved on to the next point, which we focused primarily on today, which was that towards the end of time, fitna will increase. Trial and tribulation will increase for the people. So we went through dunya and all its luxuries and all its greenery that it has to offer is another fitna. Wealth is another fitna that we touched upon. And how the akhirah is something that we should strive for. And the way to do that, and the way to safeguard ourselves from the fitna of the dunya and everything that it has to offer, is to stick with the ulama, the scholars, and beneficial knowledge. And to always seek that beneficial knowledge and to be engaged in the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then we spoke about how knowledge and worship, they keep you away actually from fitna. And how a believer, if fitna were to happen to him or around him, how a believer doesn't panic or become confused, but how instead the believer stands firm upon the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, upon the risala and the understanding of the deen of the Sahaba gave to us. And how Islam, sometimes you can have people whispering to you and so on and so forth. And why it's a believer to stay away from them? Because then people themselves are successful. Whether those people that speak of the Sahaba, or those people that are attacking, the understanding of Islam for you. And then we went on to the other types of fitna also. We mentioned those that speak about the Sahaba. We mentioned the fighting that took place between the Sahaba and what the Sunnah position is concerning that. And we're moving on to how a certain sect called the Khawarij emerged towards the end of the life of the Sahaba, you could say, and they organized at least 40, 50 years after the Rasul, and how their belief system was corrupt, and how what they were based upon was pure faith. They wanted to split the Muslims, they wanted to hurt the Muslims, they wanted to disregard Muslims. They took people out of Islam and made them kuffar for no reason, without any justification. And they made the blood and the wealth of the people halal for themselves, and that's what we finished on.
One comment that probably the comment that I will cover in last week's session. Going back to Mounty's question about all these conspiracy theories that are prevalent on social media or coming on the minor media, should we keep reminding ourselves that irrespective of whether certain sides are coming to or not, our time ends when we die.
That's right. No, that's about it. I mean, we discussed this in the last lecture, which is that for you or for us, when the angel of death comes to us, it's finished. And that's when everything is laid open before us. The path that we chose, the decisions that we made, and any good deeds that we might have, are they going to be enough to overcome the sins that we have? And it's very easy to answer the three questions there: who's your Lord, who's your Prophet, what's your religion? But there, the reality will speak, i.e., you can't fool Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you can't fool the angels. So the reality will speak, and that's the day of reality. And that reality for us begins right in the grave. And that's why we don't want to be left alone. When we hear the footsteps of our relatives leaving us, we're going to be screaming, where are you going? Because we know what's to come. The questioning of the grave is something which is severe among the people, except for those that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has. This is something that is always that we should always be grateful for Allah. Barakallahu feek.
One of the question on hadith did the companions ask the Prophet to make trees? Obviously, that would give blessing to whatever they asked for. With the understanding that it would be Allah who would give it through the tree, or did they want the tree itself to have inherent powers? Because then becomes.
And obviously, they knew that Allah is the one by all powers. So it's similar to what some of the modern day people of shirk have by way of their belief. That I don't believe that person in the grave is all powerful. It's Allah that gave him that power. Yeah, but that's still shirk with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam this is shirk. And this is the same shirk that the mushrikeen of Makkah were involved in. لبيك اللهم لبيك لبيك لا شريك لك لا شريك لك ولا تملك وما ملك أي مسلم. Allah, you are one, you are alone. We believe in you. You have no partners except for the one that you chose as the partner. And what he has by way of powers, you own him and the power that he gave him. It's your ownership. So that was their Aqidah, say Muslim. And Prophet said, stop at that sharika, don't go beyond that. But they continued. So if today someone is saying, I believe that person in the grave is Allah, then he's a disbeliever, right? But they the truth has come and falsehood as we lit from there has vanished. There was pictures of the Prophet Ismail in the garden. And the Prophet wiped the pictures up in his own hands. So it wasn't just a case of they worshipped a stone or an idol. It's pictures of prophets. You know. So as we know from the story of Ibn Abbas and the hadith, which is how it started, to find people. So the point is that they didn't believe that that thing itself was Allah. Because if they did, then we know that Allah was when they were chopping waters, they didn't call upon that thing that was in their hand, the idol or something, because they knew that that wasn't Allah. That's they called upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala directly. So they actually internally knew that that thing doesn't even have the powers that they think that is. They do that. Allah has given any of these attributes, any of these powers to anything on the creation. They use it. That's right.
Once again, brothers, just a couple of things before. I want to thank the Ustaad, mashallah. We had to change the time today because one of the sisters in the community is doing a very important workshop downstairs, mental health in the Muslim community. But that's open to all the sisters now, and I think that's going to finish at 4 o'clock. So we thank the staff for changing the time to come in slightly later today. We also thank the brothers as well for adjusting their weekend routine. Inshallah, next week's going back to the normal time, 12:30, and we're going to be downstairs. Just a couple of requests. The staff has requested that we pray our salah before we come. That way he can start properly and you can benefit without sort of like delaying the lecture. So people attend downstairs in the main hall at 12:15. We pray Dhuhr at that time, and we'll start the lecture exactly 12:30, and then give us an hour and 70 minutes, and then we have an opportunity for Q&A afterwards. And also tomorrow we'll start with Suhaib's class at 7:30, and it will be the first lesson, and we'll be talking about Adam alayhi salam. So that's for brothers only. Please, for the people that can't attend, just link up on our live stream on YouTube. I'm going to pray us up now, so if you sat